Computer. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan Walker, formerly of the University of Minnesota and now of the world. And I have only welcoming all of you warmly today as my topic. So I'm going to turn it over to Ellen Hafner, who is on my left.
Hi, Ellen Hafner, Parent Education in Northfield, and I pass it on to Jenny. Jenny, you're muted. Push your earbuds all the way in. Like all the way into the computer. No. 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 I'll put it in the chat. Shoot.
Okay, the other Jenny will go.
There you go.
Oh, there, I think she's getting connected. I'll go quick. Jenny Carlin, East Central. Happy to be with you guys again. I took a new job as the early childhood special ed teacher this year, on top of coordinating and parent ed and all the other stuff. So I don't have a classroom anymore, and my high needs one is home today because we had 2 hour late start. So I am free. Happy to be back.
You're muted, Susan.
You're muted, Susan. And I forgot to pass it back on to Jenny Thompson.
But I was going to ask you, Jenny Carlin, before we move to Jenny Thompson, if you would, so as we sort of gather our topics for today, if you could restate your question that you'd sent to me, and then we'll note it and then come back to it. Okay. Jenny Carlin.
Yes, I can do that. But Jenny Thompson, we still can't hear you, I don't think.
Oh. No, we can't. Okay, so she's going to work on that. Okay. Well, don't worry about Jenny Thompson. She's so resourceful. All right. Well, all right. I'm getting a little bit confused. Ellen, I see you have a question. So why don't you verbally state your question, and then we'll go to Jenny Carlin and she can state what her question is, and then we'll go on and whoever is next. Okay, Ellen,
Yeah.
so what would you like us to talk about?
I'm just curious how any of you deal with parents who go on and on about how smart their child is. Oh, so smart. Oh, he's so smart. And typically what I'm finding is the parents of these kids are also the ones we are pretty sure are on the spectrum. So I'm just curious how maybe you don't say anything at all, but I have a couple families now who just think their kids are gifted and they're 2. And I'm like, how do you, or do you just leave it? That's my question.
Okay. Good. Okay, great. Thanks. And Jenny Carlin, and what your question was about marketing?
Yeah, mine's more about marketing for virtual classes.
Okay.
I had Pine Tech reach out, the community college, and wanted to do some virtual parent ed class pyramid model kind of thing. And we managed to get 4 to 6 enrolled last fall, and they can't get 2. And they're serving a huge district. And I don't know what to do differently. I'm not their marketing person, but just curious if anybody else has had anything.
Sure. Good. Thank you. Okay. Let's just go to Nikki.
Nikki Murphy, and I am a parent and family educator in Robbinsdale. I don't think I have any specific questions right now, but I will say, I think Yuji's coming, and we just had a conversation about how it is she asked, how do I organize things over the course of semester? And I talked about the scaffolding and the use of using parents, all of the felt, ascribed, and future needs, and how we build that so that we give them the foundation before we give them all of the information that they're asking for. through this conversation, I do have a question for the group, and that is, how do we, I know that there's lots of efforts to perhaps build positions at the MDE level, but how do we build more conversation and continuity across our state in terms of not just personal choices that we make as we facilitate, but practices that we embed in parent and family education that we call ECFE?
Susan, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Jenny, I tell you. Technology. Jenny Thompson.
Can you all hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
let's hope it stays. I am a parent and family educator in the St. Paul School District, and soon I'm going to be switching rooms, so I might just be listening. But I would love if a question I have for the group, if we have time to talk about it, is I have a birth to 2 class that has, it's a non-separating class. That's an hour and a half. And almost everyone is a 10-month to 18-month highly mobile group. And I only have 1 early childhood helper. So it's and 10 of them, 10 little ones. So it's kind of organized chaos, and I need more staff, but I don't have them right now. So just was curious if other parent educators have different kinds of activities or conversations, things, or ways of dealing with the fact that the parents are all over the room following their children while we're trying to have a conversation. And yeah, that's my question for everyone. Let's see, I'll call on Kim. Have you gone yet?
Hi, I'm Kim Sedlecki. I am a parent educator in Moose Lake School District, so very small school district. And I don't have any questions. I just don't have a class because of a late start, so I'm here today.
We're happy to have you. Greta, you want to go?
Sure, I'm Greta Nelson, and I'm a parent educator in Cambridge Isani Schools. My other role is early childhood screening coordinator. And I don't have any specific questions, but I was going to say that I feel for you, Jenny. I've been there before, and one-on-one is where I leaned in, but I know we're not going to answer those questions yet, but just a little thing. Yeah. Yuji, your turn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuji. I'm living in Montana. I'm licensed parent educator in Minnesota. Actually, I'm renewing my license this year. Actually, I want to see if I can apply to another tier of parent license. Yeah, so I think there's good news to share with you is I'm involved in a new position, and we are going to build a general parent education in New York. So that is exciting to me. I don't have a specific question today. I just want to listen. Thank you.
And Nancy.
Hello. My name is Nancy Trahey. I am the parenting educator for Albany School District. We're in central Minnesota. And I really don't have a parent ed question today. But I have been trying to find a district on behalf of our my colleagues who are doing school readiness. They're looking for a district who does core. We're switching from FastBridge to core, and they would like to talk to some. So if any of you your early childhood school readiness teachers are using core, I'd love for you to add that in the chat, and then I can maybe link them with you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Great. So let's see, let me run through the topics. So facilitating parents with parents who might be a little excessive on how smart their kids are, marketing for virtual classes, building more conversation across the state about practices we embed in parent and family ed that we call ECFE, assisting in a how to manage in a birth to 2 class that is non-separating, that goes for about 90 minutes when children are highly mobile, but there's only one early childhood staff. And Chris is here, good. And the core model, if that's correct, right, as used in your early childhood program, is that correct, Nancy?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was typing in my email address to you.
Oh, yeah, thanks. The core model, as
Yes.
used, yeah, okay. Great.
Yes.
And before we begin then, I see that Krista has joined us. Hi, Krista. We're just going around, doing the introductions. So if you would introduce yourself and just share if there's anything you'd like us to talk about today.
I'm Carissa Waite. I am in Mounds View, parent ed, teach separating and non-separating ECFE and do outreach, which means a variety of things. No, I don't think there's anything. I just said I've missed the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm happy to be back today.
Thanks. Well, it's always lovely to see everyone. So of the topics, I've sort of put them into chat, although I know not everybody can see all of them depending on when you came in. Is there a particular topic you're burning to talk about, or who'd like to lead us off?
Just go in order.
Okay.
Just go down the list.
All right. Sounds good, Ellen. So parents who are a little excessive on talking about how smart their kids are. I guess my question to open the discussion is, why is this of interest to you? Is it something that you've seen consequences where other parents are disengaging because the parents are sort of monopolizing it? Is it?
No, it's not really that. It's just,
Okay.
how do I get them to realize that their child is, it just seems to be a competition for some parents. And I just want them to realize that their child is exactly where they need to be. Unfortunately, sometimes their child is not where they need to be, but they think they're so smart. They're like, oh, she's 2 and she's so smart just because she knows all her colors. I mean, do you maybe even not say anything, or do you just let it go? I mean, I can't be like, she's actually a typical 2-year-old. Do you know what I mean? I'm just curious how, if anything, I have a couple families right now, their kiddos they're smart, but they don't make eye contact, and they are stimming with wheel. Like, these are kiddos that we're pretty sure are going to end up being referred for services. But they're also parents because they think their kids are so smart. If we suggest evaluation, they're going to be offended. They're going to leave. So I'm just curious how you walk that line, or if you just let it go and early childhood screening doesn't go well, and then you refer. I just don't know.
I think that's so tricky, and I feel for you. I also have had many that I feel like are similar. And one of the things that we just continue to do is giving families things to observe for and asking questions about what it is that they're seeing. And so for something like that, asking them about social communication, like affirming for them, like, wow, they can name so many things. They can identify so many things. That is your little one yet able to engage with you about, and whatever that is, or, social communication, or extending pretend play into the environment and giving them like conversation and explanation about what it is and why it's important, and where that is going developmentally, so that they can play with it at home and come back and talk about that. Because I think until they have this framework of, oh, they know a lot of things and they can name a lot of things, but there's this additional piece, I don't know if they're going to see it. It's hard.
Nikki, going along with what you're saying, Nikki, is I was just off of Autism Navigator doing a toddler one with them. they do webinars pretty frequently, but one of the phrases they talk about is everything being learned through meaningful work. So what Nikki was just saying, that rote information, like, can you say ball? Ball. You know, they can recite numbers and letters and all that stuff, but this idea of meaningful work, and that adds the social back and forth, the bids and the responses and all of that to it. So sometimes a lesson that includes that. Another one would maybe be like multiple intelligences, you know, just kind of hitting on the different ways that all people are smart, like, you know, a family activity. What is, you know, something that you saw growing up that, you know, in your family was, you know, who is this and who, you know, or whatever. I'm just verbally just throwing things out, but those are two things that come to my mind. When you talk about addressing it in a group, a topic could be multiple intelligences or something like that. And then I like that phrase, meaningful work. And that's a really big clue, a really big indicator if you're wanting to broach the subject of autism or something like that.
We've also had a slew, my early childhood teacher does screening, and we've had a slew of parents coming through who want to push their kids to kindergarten early. Some, you know, September 1st is the cutoff, but their kids are November and they want to push it. And our district makes it very hard, very hard and expensive. And then they want to know, oh, is there a gifted program? And like, your kids are like, I just wish we could stop this like idea that kids need to be so smart. There's so much value placed on, yeah, it's just really hard to refute and be like, that's not everything, guys. It's not everything. Well, thanks, guys, for that. Appreciate it.
I don't know if I have anything. I don't know how to, I deal with it too. And I don't know, I do kind of just talk about the social development, emotional development, kind of the whole broad range instead of just smart, I guess, is what I do as well. I don't think I'm particularly good at it, but I wonder if, I guess I wouldn't necessarily automatically think that because they're going on and on about how smart their kids are, that they're not noticing those other things that are maybe, and it maybe is a little bit of a defense mechanism. I don't know, just having been a parent, and I didn't go on and on about how smart my kid was, but we had like grandparents, my in-laws especially, would go on and on and on and on and on about how smart he was. And it does sort of cover that, the things that you notice that are maybe not quite where they should be. So I don't know what that tells you or how you deal with that, but just kind of a different perspective.
And it's so hard too, because you might say, you know, we've noticed that, you know, she does these things. Have you noticed that? You know, and they might be like, yes, what is that? You know, but you're afraid if you say it and they're like, well, what do you mean? Is there something wrong? You know,
Yeah.
you just don't know if they're going to be defensive or if they're going to be like, oh, you're taking this massive weight off my shoulders. It's the hardest part of this job, I think, is knowing when to push a little bit just to see if they'll crack. And be like,
Ellen, when you're talking about it, it's so true. It's one of the hardest parts. When I think about the longevity of a child who has not been diagnosed and there were signs before, how much more difficult it becomes, right? Because when they're little and you're starting to see some of those non-engaging, you know, the gaze isn't there, or the give, or any of those 16 by 16 months are delayed. When that's happening at that age, it's okay. It's kind of okay because they're doing a lot of other things as well. And then they start giving words and the rote learning is there. And that even can feel really good. The challenge is when we get then into 4 and 5 years old and we need the social skills. Otherwise, the delays are going to interrupt their engagement with their friends and their families and stuff. And that's when it becomes so hard. And if we can catch them earlier, when it's like these other little things that, I wonder what's going on, you know, it's not necessarily, even if we can catch some of these things as early as like early in those first 2 years, then it's not even a cognitive delay. It's just a couple of these things we see that could be autism, and we never get them out of that, right? Or whatever, but we can help along the way sooner. Early intervention is crazy amazing when we can do it. It's just hard to start that conversation with a parent. I like having a tool of some sort that I just kind of hand to them and say, what do you think? It's kind of like the what was the videos, to comparison videos of behaviors that we were looking at last week with Carrie. And that becomes the judging thing, not us seeing their child. And that's kind of the same thing sometimes when we have a tool. And I'd look at Autism Navigator and look out there and see, you might find some tools that you really are really helpful in addressing it. I don't, those are just some thoughts. It's not easy work.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Susan just asked if I had a Montessori perspective, and this is not really, but if there's a different take on it. It strikes me that saying you're so smart is, an example of praise. And when we overpraise children, it's actually counterproductive. So there's this, have you ever seen this list, 25 ways to encourage a child? And just helping parents understand the difference between encouraging and praising. Whereas encouraging would be, oh, you're coloring with the color blue. You really love blue, being very specific, as opposed to, I love your drawing. It's gorgeous, So I'll find the link for it, but, just helping all parents learn that there's ways to be really supportive and encouraging of our children, but giving excess praise and is actually counterproductive to their sense of self and their desire to keep wanting to do the thing that they're doing. I heard a study when I was in ECFE as a parent 25 years ago, and I always am looking for the source of it, can never find it. So I'll just keep putting it out until someone says, oh yeah, I've seen that study, where they did a research with a group of preschoolers and an art table. And the children were invited to the art table to do a project or whatever, or to just work with the materials. And in one case, the teachers came by and gave lots of praise. Oh, you're making a beautiful picture. Oh, I love this. Lots of praise. And then in the other version, the adults didn't praise. They just responded to children. When the children said, look at my picture, they'd say, oh, thank you for showing me, that kind of thing. And over time, the children who were praised spent less and less and less time at the art table. And the children who were encouraged but not praised spent more and more time at the art table. So if anyone's seen that study, let me know. It was before Carol Dweck. But it's on that growth mindset trajectory.
That's in Mind in the Making too, in that book.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
And Ellen Golansky's book, Mind in the Making, she quotes that study.
Yeah, so Jenny and another book in Drive mentioned that study, three groups of children. The book
Can you say the book again?
Drive.
Drive. Okay.
Yeah, by Pink. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We can move on. I don't want to take the whole, that took like a long time. So
Yeah, and
moving on.
what I'm gonna say will probably could open up a whole other can of worms, but we talk about it very frequently, so we don't need to keep that can open very long. Is just the undercurrent of parent confidence that drives this need for their children to be perfect or to be gifted or whatever. I mean, as a parent, I saw it myself, and I hear about these anxieties or the kid who should be, like in kindergarten earlier than the other kids, or the reverse of it, horrors if the preschool teacher advises that the kid doesn't start kindergarten right away with his age cohort and gives another year of whatever. Is just that, like, where is that sort of coming from the parent's own sense of focusing on the child, the need for the child, rather than their own sense of, I must have been doing something wrong, or I'm a better parent if my kid does this. So, but anyway, not to,
I have a quick question if it's
where?
okay, because it's fitting and it's a tangent to this, but you guys, if you have kiddos who have those summer birthdays and they've done your districts, like their VPK or the voluntary pre-kindergarten or whatever you call it, but the program, like the 5-day program for kiddos who is that year prior to kindergarten, if the parents hold them back and don't put them in kinder, our district doesn't have anything more for the family. Like there's nothing to put them in. We used to have like a kindergarten prep. There's no place for these kids. So I'm just curious what, if anyone can relate to that, and where do you encourage families to explore?
I'll just say a small district here, but we appreciate when families recognize their kids aren't ready to go on. So we voluntarily let them repeat school readiness with us for free. We do have 2 different school readiness teachers, so they can either choose to stay with the same teacher or go with another teacher. We use the same curriculum, but we teach it differently. So the kids get variety and they're exposed to the ideas more. For another year.
We've done that as well, and our programs are all free. I know there's been talk more at the admin level of, we're not making any money off these kids. They can't be VPK. They can't, all these different things, and our parents don't pay fees. So they're taking a spot, but we don't have a waiting list. So it's not like they're taking somebody else's spot either. This was just a conversation too, like MDE just pushed out this ready communities, ready parents, ready students, ready for K thing, kind of pushing more for the schools to be ready for these kindergartners. Just because they're 5, we should be having them in kindergarten and not pushing so much for the holding back. But yet my instinct still is, if they're not ready, let them do preschool again. But yeah, teach their own.
Well, thanks, everybody. It was a great conversation, as always. I think it's too fine. We could start with one topic, and then we'll find something related to that, and then something related to that, and something related to that. So, but in the spirit of addressing a variety of interests, let's go to Jenny's question, which is about marketing virtual classes. Who does virtual classes, and how have you marketed them? How have they been successful? It does seem to me, when we talked about this recently, there was somebody who had parents on a waiting list for their virtual classes because they were so popular. Anyway, so let's just have at it and share some of our successes, your successes with Jenny. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so just a little back info. This is like they can be one and done classes, but it's offered like 7 different sessions that are all related to pyramid model. And it's like childcare aware, teaming with Pine Tech, and they're doing it to or pushing this out to the region 7E or whatever, like multiple counties, huge area. And personally, I am like, where are you finding these parents? How did you get the information? Did you get it from your daycare provider? Like I said, I had like 5 to 6 enrolled this fall. They loved it. They had great reviews of it. But now they've canceled off this set of sessions because they only had 2 enrolled. And so I'm curious if anybody has started new classes with different people who maybe weren't in your parent ed virtual during COVID or things. Like, how do you start a program? I don't know.
I've only tried one virtual class post-COVID, and no one signs up. I think people are just done with virtual. I really do. I think they want to be together or nothing. That's kind of what I'm getting. And I know a lot of other programs are they're killing it. And I have also, it was a lunch hour thing. I think if I did like an 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, I might get it, but let's do that at 8 o'clock, not me. Nose goes.
So I just started one. I'm doing 4 in February, and it's it's supposed to be nap time. So it's 12:30 to 1:30. We put it in our own newsletter, and that was it. I had 9 register, totally thrilled. First one was 2 days ago, 2 showed up. But there's no fee, it was free. All they had to do, they didn't even go through our normal registration. I just put together a Google form, which the nice thing about that was that it came to me. So I had all of their information and could get the Zoom or get the Google Meet link and stuff and the information back out to them quickly. Excuse me. But I think, I don't know, maybe it was just too easy to sign up and then they're like, I don't know.
That was part of the conversation I had originally, was the cost. And so it's like, it might be $10 a session, and then they get a discount if they sign up for all 7 of them. But they even said that they were trying to get like gift cards for gas stations. And if you complete all these, then you'd get this gift card or something, or the certificate you could turn into daycare for extra free hours or something. So it wasn't free, like they have skin in the game, like you said, Ellen, but
I think it's interesting when everything went virtual. I think we're like, this is it. This is how we reach the families who are hard to reach, the ones who won't leave, the ones who won't come. It's even too much for them. You know, the families, we see them and we're like, whoa, this family could really use some support. And even getting online is just too hard for them. I mean, I think about a mom that I did some home visiting with, you know, and she could not, I mean, she wasn't even ready for me to come to her home. She answered the door in her bra, you know, she's like, oh, I'm getting dressed, you know? So I just think sometimes, I think we have this idea like, oh, everyone's home and they can be online. And I don't know, they just can't get ready, whether it's in person or out the door or home visiting or virtual. I was hoping I'd be wrong about that, but I don't know. It's weird.
You know, and all of those same barriers that happened during COVID that families worked around, and I don't know, just in terms of screen sharing, you know, so it could also be that there may be, you know, maybe 1 or 2 screens, and a parent could attend, but they would have to be using their phone, you know, because the other people in the household are using the screens. Anyway, you know, I think that I always think about doing sort of an interest assessment, and to identify, you know, with a sample group or just out there with prospective parents. Or I think when we talked about this before, it'd be like, you know, does your ECFE advisory have any ideas about this? But, you know, kind of just going to the source first and finding out, is there interest in this? And would people pay? Because I completely understand Chris's thing. It's the easiest thing in the world to sign up for a free class, and then life gets in the way and it's just like, well, there's no consequence, right? I just won't go. And whereas if something is paid for, it does, you know, give people a little bit more incentive. But generally, if, you know, it doesn't have to be a lot, but even gathering a little bit of data, you know, can inform, you know, who's your audience for this kind of thing. And, you know, what works best for them. If it's, you know, or I know that there's been some infant classes too, you know, sort of that have really been very successful, because then parents don't need to schlep their kids out in the daytime or the evening, and they can just stay at home with their infants. But it's also at a time before they, you know, they put the kiddos down, and infants could be less intrusive than to have like a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and, you know, 7-year-old, you know, like hogging for the screen or whatever. But yeah.
So I have been teaching virtual classes since 2021, and all my marketing was word by mouth. And I mean, so most of the parents in my class, they have elementary school students, and all of them, I would say, they have similar educational background as, you know, parents, like, and also economically, like they kind of middle class and well educated. Each one has a bachelor or a master, so internet is not a problem to them, and they really have this. And I think it's also in Minnesota, I feel like there are so many choices. They can come to ECFE, right? They have so many, kind of spoiled. And here they don't have none of them. Only one parent, she attended parent training because that is mandated because she adopted a daughter. She has to do that, go through this process. All the others never attended parent education before. So they are really kind of motivated, like the attend. So they just stay with me, and so I think that is yeah. So that is the situation. And actually there is one from joining me from Georgia, and two joining me from other like far away. I'm in Whitefish, and the other one is from Bozeman. It's 9 hours driving, and another from Missoula is 3 hours driving. So yeah, that is different. I think between states can be different.
Jenny, who is the target audience? Is it just is it parents in this area?
So I think the way that it started out is Childcare Aware was pushing for all these providers, the daycare providers, in-home providers, to do all their developed classes and all that. So they're like, yeah, this information is amazing. Pyramid model is great. How do we tell our parents this? And so then it was the providers saying, we want our parents to know the same stuff. So then Childcare Aware got they gave me a binder, like all the presentations. I just present it and have the conversation. So their target audience is the parents of these in-home providers. I think two of the people that attended were the in-home providers.
Providers themselves, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt need by the parents in these centers, and that has to come from the providers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that kind of how it's getting out, or is it?
Yes, so I emailed our center down the road. I said, have you heard of this? I want to share this flyer with you. She had not heard of it. And I'm like, so who is Childcare Aware of Pine City reaching to? They tell me, I'm sure your families are in that district too.
Some of them.
Because I had people in Cloquet and Duluth and Isani, and they were all over, were my 5-6 people. But
well, Jenny, what did the flyer say exactly? Did it say pyramid model? Like,
it was like challenging behaviors.
Okay, I was gonna say, because if they put pyramid
No.
model, I'm
No.
sorry, as a parent, I'm like,
It was just me knowing pyramid model from the preschool classroom.
Okay,
That's not what it was. And I would focus on that a lot. Like if you go to your public schools preschool classroom, chances are they're talking about pyramid model amongst themselves. So they're using Tucker the Turtle and all these solution kits and things like that. So it was very relevant to these kids, but yeah, I don't know.
It seems like getting the in-home care providers together first, and then doing that interest, kind of like what Susan was talking about, gathering data from them, and then having some sort of might be even kind of like a kickoff or something. When we've done stuff with Parent Aware, or when we've done things for our care providers in the area for outreach, it usually works to do kind of an event and have some food. And then maybe a spin-off from that could be, let's keep going for those who are interested, sign up for or something. Just a thought that we've done here. But it has such potential.
And that's why I don't want to give up on it, because the 6 I did have, they were like, can you have a class some night on this? And I could have totally gone off and created my own with those 6, and then tell a friend, and you tell them to tell a friend, but they're, they don't. The friends
not
don't
washing our gray away. and so on and so on. Sorry, that's a commercial from the 70s. Sorry, but they tell the one person and one person tells the next. But that is relationship, and I think oftentimes that's what catches people, is that one-on-one, like Yuji was saying too. Yeah, coming with a friend or something. Just kind of need something that starts it off, that brings them together. But it's hard because they're all far away. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, listening that these are the parents of family childcare providers, like I would have this vision that they would come all together, like the family providers would come and the parents would come and they would learn together, right? And that there would be, and like, this is something childcare aware could do, right? That they could offer these, maybe this is my extension mind, but you know, they could offer these, and because it's virtual, they're not local, they don't have to be geographically based, right? So they could offer them and then offer that the providers and the parents would be there together. Now, I know for a lot of providers, that's like a tough ego thing because, you know, for they want to appear, as we all do, in more of a, you know, like I know more than you do or whatever, right? But when it comes to little kids and development and caring and stuff like that, like it's all better when we learn together, right? And so, but yeah, I don't know. I think that there's, when I hear a group like Childcare Aware has an interest in this, you know, and then I see it devolve into an individual in a local district trying to figure out how to make this happen. It just seems like there could be some centralized coordination to make it easier, because the end goal is that all parents, you know, regardless of where their kiddos are being cared for, whether it's at home, friend and family care, whether it's a family childcare, whether it's early childhood, a center, ECFE, ECSE, wherever, right, is that sort of partnership model for learning. So
What's great about pyramid models, it has the in-center stuff and the at-home stuff. And so you can really encourage and bolster the care provider, and then bring the parents along to say, this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. And this is what you can, here's a little something for at home. It's a little different, but it's geared toward home. I mean, there's pyramid model is set up for that idea of collaboration and bolstering all egos at hand.
Yep.
Well,
But-
and the other thing too, Jenny, I found that my families who work outside the home, they are so tired. They are so stretched. And one more thing on a weeknight, they're just done. And even if you pick it like on a Friday, you know, if it was a Friday night, they just want to be home and they're so strapped for time. I mean, my Thursday night families, they're like, my child goes to bed at 6. I don't even see him. You know, meanwhile, he's passed out in her lap in class, you know, at 6 o'clock last night. I don't know. So that's why I think doing a gathering, doing some food, having childcare would be good. But I mean, don't feel bad. I just think they're really tired people.
yeah, it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
You know, another thing is I feel like, Jen, from my experience, it seems like parents with younger children, right, it's less likely will attend virtual because the child is with them. You know, they need to take care of the children. So this is why most of the parents in my class, they have elementary school children. You know, their children are not with them. They do not have how to take care of the baby. And the ones they have, little ones, many times, so if there are someone like their absence, will be these ones. They have little child. So I feel like early childhood education is better in person, because these parents, they need a break, you know, someone taking care of their child, and they have a break. So I think for early childhood is better in person, and virtually like maybe it works better for school children, family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Jenny, I'm glad you brought it up, because virtual learning, you know, and gathering, and especially in dicey states like Minnesota with weather, you know, and we think globally and even in our own state about rural areas, and that it could be, you know, 20, 30 miles before there's an in-person site available. And it's just the way too that people are growing up is by learning through computers or working through computers. I think this is going to be like a topic that's going to be open for discussion for a long, long time, is to kind of figure out who, what, where, that sweet spot, who does, and it's not going to be everybody, right? It's not going to be all parents under all conditions and stuff like that. Was that helpful, Jenny?
Very, thank you.
Good. So I saw in Nikki's comment that she said, about that her topic could be a long one. And so if it's okay, Nikki, I'm gonna go to Jenny's question about having the birth to 2 class with lots of mobile kids and only having one early childhood assistant. So what do you guys think? How would you handle this situation as we lend our sympathy to Jenny?
How many kids are in the class, Jenny?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 11 enrolled. Most often they're 8 or 9 there. It's big.
Yeah, we don't have a birth to 2. I separate them. So we have birth to 1 month. Well, we do birth to 3 months and then we do 3 to 12 months. I am so not okay having walkers with carpet swimmers. I'm just not. Toddlers should not have to worry about stepping on babies. So I'm really glad that we do it that way. I just think it's really unsafe to have toddlers walking over babies. So that's why when they start walking, they're ready for the next class and they go to the toddler class, which is 1 to 2.5, because 2.5 is where we have big stuff, chokeable stuff in the next room. So that's just our limit. But we cap those classes are 1 to 2.5-year-old classes are capped at 8. And there are 3 of us. There's an early childhood teacher and me and an aide. So when I'm doing parent ed, there are 2 of them to watch the 8 kids. I would not feel safe having 11 kids with a mixed age and toddlers coming over. And I
don't actually have any babies in there. So
okay.
I don't have that. And the class evolved out of the fact that there's a practice for pre-K class at the same time. So some of them are siblings. Their siblings are in the 3 and 4-year-old class. And they did it as non-separating so that because the EC teacher is, it's, every class has its story, but.
Well, and the other thing too about facilitation when people are walking around the room, this happened to me this morning. Actually, I have a couple in my 3 to 12 month class that are crawling and heading over to the climber. They're 9 months, they're starting to move. And I had 2 moms over there who were talking with each other and it was really bothering me. And when they all started, they were all little and I didn't have to be like, watch side conversations because they mostly didn't, but now I do, but I didn't review that. Ugh. So I was just like, guys, do you want me to, close that climber? Because I don't want you to miss out on this valuable conversation. And that was enough for them to be like, stop talking. So I just encourage families, if you do have to leave the circle and follow your child, really try not to engage with each other and try to keep, I really want you to be able to take something away today. And if you're talking to the other people, you're following around the room with your child, you're going to miss on stuff. So sometimes just a reminder, because parents are usually pretty good at watching their child from a distance and still honing in, but they just have to not talk to each other. That's kind of the key.
Jenny, when I've done infant classes where we call them scooters, when they are moving and mobile, I've kind of given up the parent circle sometimes, depending upon the numbers and how busy they are, and have just gone to interacting with the families one-on-one and doing it that way. If all else fails and the circle isn't working very well, I found that is a place where then I have those conversations and the questions instead. And then all the side conversations are happening as they desire and they're watching their own child in the classroom. But yeah.
Greta, do you do that? Do you have any sort of topic in mind with that? Or like an observation question? I mean, you try to do it as a theme.
Put up on the screen, a question to be thinking about or something to be watching their child do. Yeah, something like that. And sometimes sometimes it's just a check-in, but yeah, most of the time it's some sort of a topic, but then it always progresses into what they want to talk about, the hot topic. Yeah. Or even just putting handouts over by the door and then, allowing that to do the work and check in next week if anybody, read them or anything like that too. Yeah, flexibility. And then I pray that there will be another staff member added to the class if at all possible, so we can have them watching the children and get back to circle time. But yeah.
Jenny, this is Nancy. I we have a similar situation when I do a non-separating class. The district just assigns a para to be with me. And so I share your frustrations, I guess, that's what it is for me. I feel like I'm not meeting their needs as well as I can when we're able to separate. But I mean, that's mine. Now, sometimes I ask myself, well, maybe it's my needs that we're not meeting, because I'd love to have a more in-depth conversation. And I second what Greta says about putting something on the screen. Where I'm lucky, I have a way to project onto a screen in each of the rooms that I'm in. But I also tried one year sending them a link to information ahead of time so that they could review it at home. And not all of them did. But it was just another way for those that wanted to, and then if they hadn't, when they got there and they said, oh gosh, I wish I had watched that now, that they could go back through their emails and find it, or I resent it if they had deleted it, that kind of thing. Just another thought.
I teach I teach babies at 0 to 9 months. And so we get to do the circle thing, and that's fine. And then I teach, we call it movers, which is 10 to 17 months. And then explorers, that is 18 to 24 months or 23 months, I think. And those two are non-separating. And I've given up trying to have and I don't even have a para. I am the only staff person in the room with 6 to 10 families. So I do more. I'm glad to hear you say that, Greta, because I haven't been feeling great about it, not having a really focused parent time, but I just couldn't make it work. And we do a snack. So I do get a couple minutes during snack, but even with all the kids sitting at the table, it's really tricky to get more than 4 sentences out about my handout that I'm sharing that day, and then just doing that individual check-in. I like the idea of sending out an email with links or something ahead of time. Maybe I hadn't even considered that. So
How long are the classes?
it's only an hour.
Yeah.
But
mine an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Depending on the age. We went back this year since COVID. I was so excited. We went back to having more of an infant class and then a toddler class. And we hadn't had real great registration for our infant classes before COVID. But this time, it was enough so that we could go with the class. That the other non-separating class that's an hour. And so those were an hour and 15 minutes. The other non-separating class with the toddlers was and is, I'm doing it right now, an hour and a half. And we're separating for a little bit this year. I didn't before COVID, but this year we are. And I got the community ed director to agree to having an early childhood teacher with the para for that separation time. So I'm hoping, and we've got a bigger enrollment. There's 5 in that. Usually our 0 to 5 mixed ages class. So I'd never be able to do what you do, Ellen, in terms of never having the babies there. The district has a class birth to 5, and we're always full. We're always at 15, 16 kids, which is as much as they've pushed us on. The district would love to have more because we have a waiting list. But anyway, it's hard, isn't it? And sometimes you're just winging it. You're doing the best you can. And I think we feel badly about that as good educators, but anyway. Oh, it's time.
It really does feel watered down when,
Mhm.
and my groups have been so, I don't want to use, I'm not trying to be mean, like needy. They just have so many questions. And we had a snow day and whatever, we had all kinds of canceled stuff, but they just have so many questions and I don't get to any topic. I mean, it's been like 3 weeks and I've had to push my topic. We were going to do temperament.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten it to any of my classes because they've got hot issues they want to talk about. And I know I'm making some parents mad. I always get 1 or 2 with like, really wish we could get to the topic more often. Like, well, right, I know, but if I went to the topic every time, then somebody would complain. I really wish you'd answer our questions. You can't make everybody happy, but I've been feeling very much like things are watered down. And I just have to they're getting what they want and they keep coming back. But yeah, I don't feel like I've done anything this session yet. Nothing except answer their questions.
I bet you're building a lot of great relationships, Ellen. And
Yeah.
that's huge. And
Yep.
that will keep them coming back, and that
Mhm.
will keep them in your under your wing a little, in your little thing, so that you can then, have those conversations on the side or meet some of those needs and bring some of those dive deeper later kind of things, and that relationships at those stages, I think, are my crucial thing. If you have so much to give them, that if you sent them home with stuff or sent out links, I don't, I've kind of decided, for the sake of relationship, right? I'm going to forgo topics and give them links, because they're very good at that. And hit those topics, or hit those hot topics that are burning, right? And I agree. Our infant classes are really seen more as an outreach to bring families in. So I've always kind of had that from the up, from coming down from the top, that this is like a drop in and play. Come on and see us. So maybe that weighs in how I see what I can accomplish in an infant class, and maybe I should expect some more than that. But they come back loving the songs. They come back loving the relationships. They really do. Yeah, respite, whatever it might be, right? You're doing
Can I
the
ask a
great job.
quick follow-up question? One thing that I shifted for this class is that I moved the circle time to middle of the class. And that way it essentially brings everyone together for a short time. And then that's when I do my parent conversations. But I was just curious when others do circle times when they have a non-separating class.
We used to do ours in the middle, and now my early childhood teacher prefers to do it at the end, which I don't love, because it means sometimes parents just keep talking, and I'm not good at ending on time. I mean, just face it, like that's just not, but they're going, and I hate being like, hey, time out. But should we do it at the end? And the toddler circle times I think there could be more in them, but we just really sing a song and do the parachute and then we're done. But those toddlers really aren't. My old people used to read a book, and they're really just not digging books. I love flannel board things, but my early childhood teacher doesn't do those. So we just do it at the very end.
I do mine in the middle. So we do parent-child time, circle, and then snack usually. And depending, sometimes snack takes, you're like, okay, time to wrap up snack. And other days you're like, oh, you're done with snack already. I guess we have more time to play. And then like my evening class, we do parent-child time, circle, and then we go to the motor room.
Ours are only an hour, Jenny, so I don't have as much time to fill, but we usually do, they come in and I have a book that they're creating every week. They add that one little sheet that says, what are they doing? We weigh them and all that jazz. And they do, maybe there's a craft or a handprint that we do that day that they end up putting in the book or something. And then we do, when everyone's kind of done at that table, we do a circle time. It's kind of the middle, and then it leads into the parent time. And the children, if they're mobile, they start going away, depending. Yeah.
Well, and then Jenny, if we're talking about my infant class, my 3 to 12 month class, I do circle time at the beginning.
Yeah.
As they're coming in, as they get situated, then I sing hello. We do a little, because if I don't do songs at the beginning, it won't get done, because we'll just launch right into topics. So, and circle time for that toddler, I mean, it's like my baby class, it's just songs. That's all I do. And I do about 5 songs and then we move on.
Thanks everybody for your ideas. And Greta, do you happen to have a template for your little book that you have baby families create?
All it is just a half sheet of construction paper, and we punch 2 holes on the top, and I get over the rings, and they just decorate a cover. And then we just add pages every week and a back to it at the end. And sometimes I'll laminate the front and back before they take them home.
And,
So
and they're putting down a new development that week, basically.
yeah, they're putting down what are they seeing, what's new, what's different, what's changed, and yeah, and I do take a picture for the littler. I do take a picture each week, and then the next week they put it in the book. So
That's amazing.
it's fun. They love it. I lost one once. Oh my gosh. She's the teacher here now. And she goes, Greta, I'm still mad at you for losing my book. So don't lose a book. Because some of them, it's the only thing they have for a timeline. Oh my gosh,
I
that's
love
so
it.
much pressure.
I love it. Thank you.
Great idea. Well, thanks, everybody. What another wonderful day of conversation. I hope in the future you have children who don't show up and cold days that cancel classes and things like that that help you be here. But we always have the videos posted so you can watch them. So yeah, so thanks everybody. This is I just listening to it, it's such an important topic related to, and as Ellen was saying, sort of those expectations. And then, and if you feel like a failure and I'm not my word, not yours, Ellen, but just those expectations that don't seem to be met. And then as Greta said, but other expectations or other things are being met. And one of the things I so appreciate about this group that I wish could somehow be bottled and given to parenting education students is, that experience. The experience and the confidence, and we'll get there, and other things intervene. And when you're trained on the curriculum model and evaluation, right, and all of these sort of nuts and bolts and mechanics of how you teach and what you teach and all of that, and then in the real scenario, you have lots of babies in the room, and you have parents who don't show up, and you have parents who overestimate their children's abilities and want to talk about it all the time. And you have snowstorms and, all of these things that intervene. And, when we default back to what else is happening though, right? What about the relationships that are being built? What about the confidence that parents are building? What about the relationships that they're forging with each other? What is that culture and climate that we're offering one day a week, to parents? And think about sort of the long goal. And I think that my last thing on this is just that as experienced educators, you see the long goal. You're able to see down the road, or those parents will connect with you in the grocery store when their kids are 20, and say, and it's just like, because you see that, right? And it's down the road. So anyway, thank you all. Fabulous conversation, and we'll be back again next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Happy Friday. Thank you.